quote from Warren Buffett. And he basically says, if you don't find a way to make money while you sleep, you will just work until you die. The mission here is to help you, the listener, shift from being just like a passive consumer to becoming what the source calls an active financial architect.
I love that term, financial architect.
Yeah, it's a great visual.
Yeah.
Because the goal isn't just watching a number go up in a bank account. It's about achieving actual economic sovereignty, reclaiming your time.
Absolutely. So we're going to break down these 10 specific strategies from the text, and they're logically grouped to help you build your own financial fortress, basically.
So to start building that fortress, we kind of have to completely redefine what money is actually meant to buy. I think most of us see a paycheck as, well, like a permission slip to go buy stuff.
Yeah, totally. The consumer mindset.
Right. But the wealthy view a paycheck entirely differently. It's about buying assets to delay liabilities. You're using money to buy time, not status.
And this brings up a really fascinating mathematical rule from the source. They call it the rule of luxury.
Oh, yeah, the 2-to-1 rule.
Exactly. The rule is, for every single dollar you spend on a luxury, you must force yourself to invest $2 into a cash-producing asset.
So wait, if I want like a $2,000 designer watch,
then you actually need $6,000 in disposable cash.
Wow.
Yeah. $2,000 goes to the watch, and $4,000 goes into an asset that generates income. It's an objective barrier. It forces you to prioritize production over just blind consumption.
Which makes sense, but they apply this to buying a car, and I mean, I have to push back a little because it sounds crazy at first.
The least example, right?
Yeah. Yeah. They say, don't use your salary to buy a luxury car. Instead, you're supposed to build an asset that pays, say, $500 a month and use that cash to pay for the car.
Right.
But that is so counterintuitive. If you have 40 grand in cash, most people just go buy the car.
It is counterintuitive. Human psychology hates delayed gratification. But what's fascinating here is the mechanics of what's actually happening.
Can you break that down for me?
The ultimate goal isn't the car. The goal is protecting your original capital. If you drop $40,000 on a car, that money is gone forever. And the car is depreciating the second you drive it.
Right. It's losing value immediately.
Exactly. But if you invest that $40,000 into an asset that yields $500 a month, the asset buys the car for you.
Oh, I see.
And when the car is finally paid off, you still have the 40 grand and you're still getting the $500 a month.
It's kind of like, it reminds me of planting a fruit tree.
Oh, that's a good analogy.
Yeah, like most people just want to walk into the store and buy the fruit right now. But the financial architect takes the time to plant an entire orchard. You have to wait for it to grow, sure, but eventually the fruit is just free forever, and the tree stays intact to feed you next season.
And preserving that tree, that capital, is how you preserve your most non-renewable resource, which is your time.
And because you can always make more money, but you can't make more time.
Exactly. Think about the house cleaning example from the text.
Oh, yeah. This one hurts.
It really does. So let's say your time is worth $50 an hour at your job. And you decide to spend 4 hours on a Saturday deep cleaning your house to save $100 instead of hiring a professional.
Which feels like you're being super frugal.
It feels frugal, but mathematically, you just destroyed your own wealth. You traded $200 of your potential value for a $100 task.
You're doing low-leveraged labor.
Precisely. But there's a huge warning here, too. Let's say you do hire the cleaner. You just bought back 4 hours of your Saturday.
What?
You cannot just spend those 4 hours sitting on the couch scrolling through your phone.
Yeah. The trap of convenience. If you buy back your time just to squander it on a screen, you've completely missed the point.
You have to protect that reclaimed time fiercely. Use it to build an asset or learn a skill.
Which is a perfect segue into the second phase of this whole thing, the human engine. Because if the goal is buying back our time, we need capital to build those orchards.
Right. Where does the seed money come from?
Exactly. And the source argues that the highest ROI isn't in the stock market. It's in your own head. It's about reinvesting in your skills to raise your income ceiling.
The math on this is staggering. They use this 600% ROI example.
Break that down.
Okay, say you spend $5,000 to learn a really specialized skill. And because of that skill, you get a bump in your salary from $50,000 to $80,000.
So a $30,000 raise.
Yes. You spent $5,000 to make an extra $30,000 every single year for the rest of your career. That's a 600% return in year one alone. Wall Street can't offer you that.
No, definitely not. But I can hear people thinking, should I go back to grad school? And the source has a really strong warning about overeducation.
Yeah, the market absolutely does not care about your degrees.
It cares about problem solving.
Exactly. It compensates for high-income skills like negotiation or high-level sales or being able to broadcast ideas. You're supposed to find the gap in the top 10% of earners in your field and spend 6 months mastering just that gap.
Okay, so that's optimizing your day job. But what about the creator economy? Because they talk a lot about turning idle hobbies into income, which they call play work.
Right, the amateur versus the professional.
Yeah. They compare an amateur photographer who just posts on social media begging for like digital applause versus someone who packages that knowledge into an educational guide on, say, environmental lighting.
The amateur is a consumer. The professional creates a digital asset.
But here's where it gets really interesting, because I have a major question about this. Doesn't monetizing a hobby risk ruining the fun?
Oh, it absolutely does.
Right. Like, if I love woodworking to relax and suddenly I have 30 orders due by Tuesday, my creative escape just became a miserable second job.
And the source warns exactly about this. They call it the danger of overpromising deliverables.
How do you avoid it then?
Rigid boundaries. The passion has to dictate the pace. If you let the craft lead and you only sell what you naturally produce, the money is just a byproduct.
Okay, so you don't become an employee of your own hobby.
Right. It creates an intellectual property buffer against corporate burnout, but only if you control the pace.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So let's say you've maximized this human engine. Your income ceiling is up. Now we hit a really crucial transition. You have to decouple your physical labor from your financial output. You need mechanical assets.
So we're moving from linear to exponential.
Yeah, like I want you to imagine your income as a vehicle. Right now, if you just have a job, you are the engine. Every mile requires your physical energy.
Which is exhausting.
Totally. The goal here is to become the pilot. You just sit back and direct the course while the machine does the work.
The coffee shop example perfectly illustrates this.
Oh, the barista versus the owner.
Exactly. The barista is making a linear trade, 1 hour of their finite life for $15. But the owner captures the exponential curve of the entire system. They profit from every cup poured across 3 different shifts.
But there's a trap here too, right? Because a lot of people think they own a business, but they really just own a job.
The self-employment trap, yeah.
Yeah.
If the business stops the literal second you go on vacation, you haven't built an asset. You've just become your own, often terrible boss.
Right, you're back to being the engine.
Which is why the source praises real estate.
Yeah.
But specifically, boring residential real estate.
Yeah, no fancy house flipping.
Exactly. And this is a huge mindset shift. The magic of real estate isn't the property value going up.
Wait, really? But everyone talks about property values.
I know, but relying on appreciation is what the text calls hope. And hope is a terrible financial strategy.
Okay, that's a great line.
The real magic is cash flow. It's the fact that a tenant goes to work, pays down your loan, and puts a physical surplus of cash in your pocket every month. It's a deep psychological safety net.
But let me challenge that, because it sounds great on paper, but what about the 3 a.m. exploded toilet? Or the tenant who just stops paying? That sounds like a nightmare second job, not a passive asset.
And that is exactly why you have to build systems. If you're fixing the toilet, you failed the architecture test. You have to factor the cost of a property management company into your math before you even buy the building.
Right. It'd have to make money even after paying the manager.
Yes. The rule from the text is demand positive cash flow from day one. If you buy a property that loses money every month, hoping it'll be worth more in 10 years, you aren't an investor. You are a foolish speculator masquerading as a disciplined investor.
Wow. Okay, so we've got the human engine, we've got mechanical assets. Now we need to look at the accelerators and the traps that can wipe you out. Let's talk about leverage. Strategic debt.
This is a big one.
It is,
Yeah.
because the material makes a massive distinction between emotional debt and strategic debt.
Right. Emotional debt is swiping a 20% credit card to buy designer clothes. Strategic debt is the beauty of arbitrage.
Right, borrowing at a low rate to invest at a high rate, like borrowing at 5% to buy an asset yielding 10%.
Exactly. You pocket the difference.
But I want to lean into this with a lot of caution, because the text warns that leverage is exactly like fire.
It will burn your house down if you aren't careful.
Exactly. Handled properly, it cooks your food and keeps you warm.
Yeah.
Recklessly, it burns your life to the ground.
This raises an important question, though. How do you use that fire safely?
Shock absorbers.
Exactly. A liquid cash buffer.
Right.
Financial oxygen.
Yeah, if you hit a massive economic pothole and you have no cash buffer, the debt tears your vehicle apart. You go bankrupt. But if you have heavy shock absorbers, you just ride it out.
You survive the storm. And speaking of surviving, we have to talk about compounding and what the source calls the lollipop trap.
Oh, the lollipop trap is such a good concept.
It really is. So when people get their first investment dividends, like a $50 check, they treat it like a piece of candy, a reward to celebrate.
But the text demands we treat dividends like heavy machinery.
Right.
Like the apple tree analogy. If you plant a tree and it gives you 10 apples and you eat all 10 apples, well, you still only have one tree.
You get a quick sugar high and that's it.
Right. But if you extract the seeds and plant them, you eventually get a forest that feeds your family for generations.
So how do you stop yourself from eating the apples?
DRPs.
Exactly. Dividend reinvestment plans. It takes human emotion completely out of it.
So how does that work mechanically? Because it sounds complicated.
It's actually incredibly simple. A DRP just intercepts the dividend cash before it ever hits your checking account.
Oh, so you never even see it.
You never see it. The brokerage automatically takes that $50 and buys fractional shares of the exact same asset. No fees, no clicking buttons. It just silently multiplies your ownership on the battlefield while you sleep.
That is amazing. And that relentless compounding feeds into something society totally gets wrong. Net worth versus cash flow.
Yes. We worship net worth, but it's an illusion.
It really is.
Yeah.
They use this great visualization. Net worth is like a vast lake. It looks impressive. But cash flow is the river feeding it.
And a $10 million net worth can still result in bankruptcy if the lake dries up.
Because you can't pay your grocery bill with the equity in a 10-bedroom mansion. The mansion drains your reserves. It's a dam blocking the river. But that boring $2,000 a month duplex, that's a survival machine.
Ego versus survival. Cash flow provides options.
Right. Okay, so we have the mindset, the assets, the leverage, the compounding.
Right.
But all of this machinery is totally useless if you don't have a map.
Right. Where are we driving this vehicle?
The final strategy is setting clear financial targets. And the text has a brutal quote. A goal lacking a deadline is a delusion wrapped in hope.
Ouch. But very true. And they outline 2 specific targets you have to engineer. First is the survival number.
Right, the bare minimum to keep the machinery running. Housing, food, utilities.
Exactly. Once your passive assets cover that, the existential fear is gone. You can breathe. But the ultimate goal is the freedom number.
Which is the cost of waking up and dictating your own schedule. Hobbies, travel, everything.
And you have to write these down with uncompromising deadlines. Not, I want to be rich someday. It has to be, I will have 3 cash-producing assets by December of my 40th year.
It turns abstract wealth into a tangible engineering problem.
Precision breeds accountability. You stop reacting and you start orchestrating your capital like a professional.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now? Are you broadcasting vague desires, or do you have a defined frequency?
To synthesize this whole deep dive, making money work for you isn't about dying with the biggest bank account.
Definitely not.
It's a shift in identity. You weaponize your human capital, you demand cash flow from boring assets, and you guard the magic of compounding.
Because the entire architecture serves one purpose. Buying back the irreplaceable hours of your life. Capital is just the tireless soldier you deploy to win back your freedom.
Exactly. If you build this correctly, your money never sleeps so that you can.
I love that. And I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over today as you look at your own financial map. If your passive income perfectly covered your freedom number tomorrow and you completely reclaimed all of your time, what is the very first thing you would create in that newly bought quiet space?